Welcome back to OH-THE-HUMANITIES E3 specials. This is 1, 2, 3. This is the third one where we are going to be discussing Nintendo, then hop, skip and jumping across to Square, and then a slight shimmy and a soiree and the odd sultry hopscotch into the PC show, which I've not seen but Patrick has. And I think our rudimentary guest has had a look at that as well. Please welcome back the magnificent, the towering, the skyscraper that is James Carter.
Thank you for having me. I like to think that I've seen off rivals in the guesting spots over these past two episodes, and I am last man standing, as it were.
You are indeed. You are
very pleased to be here.
You are the king champion of the ring.
You are the champion, sir. And bouncing into Nintendo, even pre-conference, there was the much forgotten about, almost at this point, the Nintendo World Championships, which was amazing. Did you tuck into it at all?
I didn't catch any of that. I think I was at work when this was on. What happened?
I jumped into it sort of quite late, but it was, you got a massive audience, sort of people, Nintendo experts, and I think there may have been the odd celeb in there. I don't know. No, I think it was mainly kind of Nintendo super fans that were playing off against each other across various games. Some of them they knew. I think that Nintendo Blast Ball was in there, the one that's on the Metroid game, to throw them a bit of a loop. And I'd fallen asleep at this point because it was quite late. But I believe the final kind of battle was on a Mario Maker level that had never been seen before, and people, even the Nintendo sort of fans had no idea what was in there, and I think it was throwing out sort of quite a few curveballs, and everybody that watched it seemed really rapturous about it, but it seems to have gone under the radar in favour of LOL Nintendo and looking at the digital event, and just everybody seemingly treating it as shit. And whilst the digital event did have massive issues, I just feel that people have moved past the World Championships, and they were pretty damn cool. Yeah, that's my two penneth.
Yeah, no, I didn't catch any of it, but it being the first of what would have therefore then been 4 really late nights, I figured I'd dip out on that one.
Was that going on at the same sort of time as the Bethesda show was?
It was the night before, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was the night before.
Yeah,
and I'd forgotten it was on. But because I jumped into it when they were cracking into the Blast Ball stuff, and I don't know. It was I would have liked to have seen the whole thing, but I heard it amplified pretty well.
It just seems like a really great event, sort of like a Krypton factor for Nintendo, where you're just throwing all these different Nintendo games at people and saying, so let's see who comes through ahead as the kind of as it was slated the Nintendo champion.
And there was a moment where one of the guys on stage had a bit of a pop at Reggie, and Reggie said, whilst you're playing the games all day, I'm running the company. Well played, sir. And it was just like an instant smackdown. So yeah, I do want to take in all of that, but it was 4 hours. Nintendo World Championships, and but yeah, I don't think it should be forgotten that they resurrected it for this, and it looked like a real belter of an event as well. I'd like to see more of this with the other companies as well. It'd be nice. I tell you what, it'd be wonderful. You never get it, but it'd be wonderful if they had like an E3 World Championships, and they just got people who are the best players on Nintendo, on Sony, on Microsoft, and just put them all together with versions of like each other's games, and then maybe something a little bit special towards the end, maybe something a little bit daft, like in this case you could have something like a Mario type level, but you could play as Master Chief or Kratos, or just something really daft that was hugely celebratory of games as a whole. And no matter the rivalries of the company, there was just this moment where all of that was dismantled, and it was just like, games are fucking ace, aren't they? I'd love that.
Yeah, I think unfortunately you're asking for seas to part in the case of that, but no, it would be a great great, nice way to do it, wouldn't it? I think it'd just be a little too complex to organise and a little too much to ask.
I don't know if somebody like Game Slice, like Jeff Keighley's company, did something like that, and maybe if it was out of the hands of the major companies, but you could have the companies all having a little reveal as it went along. Say every time one of their champions won an event, say there might be a new reveal of something that was coming to the Xbox One or the Nintendo or whatever. So you'd be if you are invested in a certain company or not, or there's somebody that you like better than not on stage, you could be rooting for them because at the end of it that there'd be something that's cool for everybody that loves that console or that system. I'd dig the heck out of that.
Yeah, announce Fallout 4 and then starve the contestants for a couple of days and expose them to radiation and then ask them to beat down a super mutant. Yeah, absolutely.
Look, whatever you do in your personal life, that's up to you. But I believe the courts will frown on it this time, much as they did last time. So yeah, we then started in on the Nintendo digital event, and honestly, it couldn't have started better. The Muppet stuff was just divine, and I wish it had been applied to, I don't know, a more succinct event, I guess. Yeah. But I've watched them numerous times when all the Muppet stuff's been glued together, and they're just the Muppets themselves are superb. It's really well written. There's so much character in there. They were wonderful.
Plus, we've got that excellent shot of Iwata sitting in his chair holding a banana, just looking like, yes.
I love the different office settings they had as well. Open up the door to Miyamoto's office, and it's just this playground, and he pops up out of a pipe like he's just been playing, Fort or something like that. Yeah, no, it's just
and Reggie's push-ups,
so
Nintendo 62, Nintendo 63.
Yeah. But at that point, you were waiting for the pun at the end of it. It wasn't the Nintendo 64 thing. It was like, my body is ready. And also when Reggie and Miyamoto started dancing, and Iwata just looks around, and then just starts doing like an Elmo dance himself. That was double cool. But really all credit to them for that, because they were magnificent. Even the, I mean, how many puppets they must have gone through for the Star Fox reveal as well, where you got like the Reggie going like, and all of a sudden he got like there were like feathers came out, and then all of a sudden he was a little bit more bird-like, bird-like. And the introduction to that was superb with Miyamoto becoming
absolutely
Fox McCloud. But yeah, that led into Star Fox Zero. Yeah. Thy thoughts, gentle folks?
Really happy to see Star Fox back. Yeah, absolutely, definitely. Nintendo, I think a lot of people would agree, have been guilty of letting some of the sort of fan favourite 90s games sort of lapse in terms of how many of them we're getting versus Zeldas and Marios, which do come along kind of periodically. For good reason, don't get me wrong, I'm not begrudging that, but stuff like your F-Zeros and your Star Foxes, and dare I say your Metroids as well. But yeah, definitely Star Fox. It was, I think the first rumour that I heard about that was a few years ago when it transpired that there were more than a handful of people at Platinum who would have loved to get their hands on a Star Fox game, and it was always kind of like, well, yeah, but come on, Nintendo aren't really going to. And then when Bayonetta 2 was announced for Wii U, it was like, oh, maybe there could be something happen there. So yeah, just really nice to see that coming back. It looks like Star Fox. Couple of extra bits and bobs, and now you've got dual analog sticks and a few more buttons and stuff, as they were saying in the two screens, to have two different perspectives on the game for. It could be great, but at the very least it means Star Fox is back, and by the sounds of the name, a prequel to the Star Fox that we know and love.
What do you make of it from an outsider's perspective then, Arpad?
It looked cool. Not really having much attachment to Star Fox. it obviously doesn't resonate as hard with me as it does with many others. It looks fun though. The fact that the ship's wings kind of fold down and it kind of runs around like a little thing. I don't know if it's ever done that before, but I thought that was kind of cute.
Oh, the little sort of chickeny
chicken robot. Yeah.
It looks like a chicken.
Tiny little star chicken. Yeah, it looks fun, and it's colours and shapes and explosions, and it looks neat. And I kind of dug the whole bit where they talked to Miyamoto about the design of the original one. He talked about the shrine where he spends a lot of his time. And designing going through the arches of the shrine. I thought that was a neat way of sort of contextualising when I see Star Fox is, go through the arch. Okay, why? It contextualises it a little bit, and it was kind of quite cool. It was really sort of nice.
Listening to that story, it's like I love the little. To anyone else, they would be completely inconsequential anecdotes, but for me,
if that was Cliff Bleszinski, no one would care.
Yeah, but for this story, it's like he's the one guy that you think, I bet all it took was going to this shrine and seeing these arches and thinking it'd be cool to fly through those, and that an entire game series was born of that notion.
Wasn't it Pikmin that he thought of while he was gardening?
Yeah, he had a bit of a gardening craze and then was enjoying gardening. So Pikmin.
Nintendogs was when he got a dog, wasn't it?
I don't know. Is that the case?
I think quite a few games have cropped up in that fashion. Just gets a hobby and let's make a game about this.
I just love that every part of his life he could be trying to break it down into a gameplay mechanic.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's just and in places where the rest of us wouldn't see. Not that you could go to a shrine like that and not find something to interest or excite you, but to just see something like that and think, well, there's an entire game series that I can make. That's just adorably bizarre to me.
Yeah.
I just don't have that level of creativity in me, I don't think. But
and here's an outside chance as well. Imagine, so you're playing the new Star Fox and the little icons come up in the bottom corner, but it's the puppets doing the talking. I'd pay money for that.
It's a strange one with regards to Platinum, because they seem to be doing like a Telltale and just expanding exponentially, and there's been so many games across this E3 which are attached to Platinum, and I always thought of them as a reasonably small studio, but they seem to be bringing stuff in. But as to whether it's going to have the focus sort of in inverted commas sort of Platinum label on it, or as to whether this sort of stuff might be to finance other things and maybe fall into a Legend of Korra kind of
yeah, I know what you mean. Like Transformers is a licensed game, seems to be potentially a relatively small one that maybe falls into that category. I think perhaps the difference with something like this and a game that we'll come on to a bit later is that they're being developed in conjunction with a rights holder, but also a company that has a lot of development grunt as well. So I think Nintendo R&D, plenty of people there that can help out with that, in the same way that Platinum made Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, but Konami would have had plenty of people there that could help them put that game together as well. So it's not like they're taking on the full load of developing that entire game from scratch.
I think the interesting part sort of tied into that is that the folks that played it at E3 said that it wasn't fun to play. And I've seen numerous reports in that regard that I think aren't you controlling the ship with the analog sticks, but aiming the guns with the gamepad, and you trying to like look at the TV as well as using the gamepad. And I can imagine if they broke that into two parts and they had the somebody with, say, a competition pro that was playing that, guiding the ship with regular sticks, and somebody else was either shooting it with gamepad, or could even have somebody like using a Wii remote to do that. That sounds like a more interesting mechanic. But I'm just hoping that with the lead-in time, that any criticisms that were there, Nintendo and Platinum can tighten them up and give the fan base a game they've been craving, I guess. And
I guess the extension of that is that Nintendo have patchy history sounds like it's a negative thing I'm saying, but it's not really. It's just some games there are multiple control schemes, and you can pick whichever one suits you. But then other games you don't get the option, so it comes down again to whether actually you can just use the sticks and have the same thing on each screen, or whether it's going to be forced to have the two perspectives and have the control being motion based. That would absolutely concern me, because the way they were talking about it, the cinematic stuff on the big screen and the kind of aiming on the small screen, well, are you going to be able to split focus like that the way you might in a DS game, but won't really work necessarily the same with the two separate screens on Wii U.
It would have been cool if they could have done like an affordable space adventures with it. That somebody could control the ship with the pad. Somebody else could definitely control the shooting with the Wiimote. But all of the engines and the shields and all that kind of stuff were all on the gamepad. That's a game I'd like to play, because as far as I'm aware, that Affordable Space Adventures is supposed to be one of the best games this year, and yet it's passed a lot of people by. But those that have played it and have explored those different mechanics being broken down between numerous people, I just think that'd suit this game massively.
Yeah, definitely.
So we then went into the new Skylanders game, and Bowser and Donkey Kong being available as amiibo stroke Skylanders that you could. There's a switch underneath that you can change between both of them. Plus, they both go into the vehicles as well, which look like they have the ability to be brummed across a carpet. Never mind put on a portal of power. So, what do you make of the crossover in of itself? And I don't know. Any other thoughts you had from the footage that was shown?
I knew it was only a matter of time. Like before, you got one that would do both. Like it was. There's so many of these little portal things that you can put a toy on and it appears. I feel like it was only a matter of time before they did this. I'm still on the fence that I really dislike all of these toy goes on machine things. I just find them to be incredibly cynical and aimed at making children buy toys. That's just me. They annoy me a bit. So this didn't really do a hell of a lot for me. It's a cool thing to have, jam both chips in. But does that mean it's going to be double rare? Who knows?
Well, the actual amiibos are being bundled in with the starter packs.
Okay.
But as far as I'm aware, for completionists, the different characters are spread across the Wii U, Wii, and 3DS versions. So that means that for a Nintendo completionist, they'd have to get all of those, but also for a Skylanders completionist, they might necessarily not be just buying, say, the PS4 version. They'll be buying the extra ones to get the Nintendo figures, even if they can't necessarily play them in the version that they've got elsewhere, because they only play on the Nintendo version, as far as I'm aware.
They actually said, I believe they said it was only the Wii U version as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Oh right, gotcha.
I'm pretty sure that's right. I'm 99% sure that's the wording they used in it, which is it will work on the Wii U version of Skylanders, because that was kind of it's a no-brainer if you think about it, but if they didn't say it, it would be like, well, you could see some people thinking, great, I play that on PS4, I'll get a couple of Nintendo figures into my game, and it's like, well, you can see why it doesn't work like that, but equally well, yeah.
But that would be really good for the Donkey Kong Extended Universe.
Well, the criticism of these games with regards to it, Pad's opinion of it being cynical and stuff, I genuinely don't agree with that, because from listening to that amazing Cane and Rinse that was done on all of the Skylanders stuff, but also knowing a lass that I work with, and her little boy really likes Skylanders, and she says that she can buy him one of the characters, and that he'll play it for hours, like far longer than he might play with a normal toy. Plus, because all of the previous figures can be used in the new versions of the games as well.
Yeah,
there are toys that she's bought him like from back like 2-3 versions ago which you can still play with the new iterations. So it's not as if they're chucked in a toy box or going down to the charity shop, because he's still finding ways to use those in the new games, and that's why she keeps on getting them, because he has so much fun with it, and I think that they've co-opted a little bit on it, and it's a time that's spent together as a parent and child, not just kind of the child playing in the corner, and they've had a really good laugh with them. So I think you can tend to forget about that sort of stuff when you just see, the huge mass marketing and the amount of money that these things make for Activision, because it's one of their biggest revenue makers. But I'd rather lean into the other side of it, knowing the things I do about it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess whether something comes off as cheap and exploitative is one of those things, when you see it, and it's going to be different things to different people. Mm-hmm. To me, I've heard a lot of friends and people who are on the Kane Rinse show, etc., say that Skylanders is a good game as well as very enticing to kids. My only inclination to jump on board with Toys to Life as a genre is just to buy the figures, buy the amiibo, because they're characters I've enjoyed games in the past and have an emotional attachment to. And the same with Disney Infinity. Pick characters from Disney's various properties, not just Disney films, obviously, that mean something to me, and just have the figures. And I wouldn't actually be all that interested in what functionality they gave me in Nintendo games or what I could do with Disney Infinity.
I think the thing is with the Skylanders stuff, when you buy a Skylander figure, you pop it on the portal and you're playing that character in the game, or in the case of Swap Force, you're sort of snapping them in half and building variations with different characters. The issue I have with Amiibo currently is it's barely a frisk and a tickle on the game that you're playing.
And it's different things in different games. Some characters don't work in some games, some characters do in others. So it's one of those things, again, we talked about, where you need a chart to try and work out what you're getting out of your game. You stick it on a stand for a certain game, it doesn't do anything. You put it on the stand when you're playing Yoshi's Woolly World, and suddenly you have the cutest little Mario Yoshi you can imagine. But and it comes down to what you think you can get out of it. If you play Mario Kart 8 and you play nothing but that and would like some extra skins for characters or etc., I can say it's almost like a vestibule for DLC in that case. But in the case of the Amiibos, I wish that they did more. And I heard that, and I didn't realise this until the other day, that they will only carry information for one game. Yeah. Other than, so say, something like Smash. If you want to play it on something else or buy. Yeah. So there's multiple Mario Amiibos, for example, and I think I'm right in saying they all unlock the same Mario content in different games. So you don't have to have the Smash Brothers Mario figure to use the Smash Brothers stuff. You could have the Mario Kart Mario figure.
I do like the punchline as well, that people weren't asked about them until they realised that they were in short supply, and then everybody needed to have them. That was funny.
That's what you need your spreadsheet for, to work out where the hell you can buy them when they come out.
But with the Skylanders stuff, they are amassing information the more and more that you play with them, and that a kid can, say, take their Spyro from their Wii U version and they can play it on a 3DS version in the car, or they can take it round to their friends that's got a PS3 and they can play it there, and it retains all the information and everything where they play together. It will take that information, and I like the fact that the little things kind of remember this stuff, and the kids, or in the case of that Kane and Rinse, adults can try and push those abilities more and more. So it doesn't seem like an afterthought on an action figure like Amiibos seem like to me. That this is something that can keep being added to, and with the new iterations of the game and those characters being available to play, that's continuous. And that to me gives the Skylanders a bit more of a...
It means that each time you buy a new Skylanders game, in theory, you have to buy fewer and fewer of the new figures, because as you're saying, you're amassing this collection. So in the first game you might have tried to buy all the figures, but then after that again, some people will. They're collectors. They want to have them. That's perfectly fine. But if we're talking about a child who's maybe buying one a month with pocket money or something like that, they're in theory not going to need to buy one a month when the new one comes out, because they've got a month playing with all of the old figures potentially, or etc. etc. You know, I think it's very telling, and it is just a little spot sort of dip test, if you like. But I was on a call with Gary Blower on Skype call when we were watching this, and he was passing the news round the lounge to his family,
cool.
and him, his wife, and his daughter. You could hear the joy and excitement about being able to have
amazing.
2 Mario characters in Skylanders, and it's very specifically that he would have the same problems with Amiibo, but Skylanders he is very much all in favour of. He thinks he's had a lot of enjoyment. Again, on the Canyon Rinse you'll hear that he's very fond of them, and so to be able to have Nintendo characters in that game is actually more exciting. I would say it seemed to be from listening to him describing the reaction around the living room.
Well, the Donkey Kong sort of the big smashing everything up seemed like it would just be riotous for a kid to do that. And I remember on that Canyon Rinse, there was a bit with one of the games where the Portal of Power for that particular game started speaking when a figure was put on, and whilst whomever it was on that show was saying like they found it quite irritating, like they looked at their little one who was killing themselves laughing at it. And I think that, you know, as adults we can play games, and you know the cuter games, and which remind us of the stuff that we played when we were growing up, and sometimes we can forget how that is to a child that's experiencing that for the first time. Hence why that show was so enjoyable, because you've got that dichotomy of, you know, I'm an adult, I need to collect all these things, this is what I'm doing, but also seeing how, you know, a blighter was processing it. But I like this a lot.
I think it combines the strengths of the Amiibo and the Skylander being the utility, and the Amiibo being the brand identity of it. You know, it's Donkey Kong. It's not just monster guy. It's Donkey Kong. It's Bowser. You know,
I think
along
the
with the
interesting
actual utility as well that you get with the Skylanders.
I think the interesting thing with the Amiibo itself is that obviously, like, they're stupendously collectible anyway, but people who would normally be paying £15 for an Amiibo will now be paying like £60 for a starter pack, at least one starter pack. So both companies are sort of are laughing on this. But I saw one of the YouTube vids that followed it, and with how they got the right design for Donkey Kong, how they were Donkey Kong and Bowser, how they were going between like the different variations of the characters and what the specials were. And it shows that it's not just we'll do a Skylander that's got a touch of Nintendo in it. That there was actually a lot of love and admiration between both companies. So I like this a lot.
And there's still the hope there, maybe false hope, but maybe Nintendo will start to do more with their Amiibo if they see their characters in the Skylanders game and how much you can do with them there. Maybe it'll spur them on, and maybe just hopefully it'll spur them to increase the production rates of all the other Amiibo and just get them on shelves for people to buy them, because this false scarcity thing, I'm sorry, I don't know what they're doing,
but it's breeding the interest, it's breeding the mania, and I know how it's stifling people that want one of everything. But again, nobody was asked until the people realised that they couldn't get them.
But the other way to do that is to make them interesting in and of themselves, make them do something interesting in the games, and then people will want them for that reason. Skylanders are not short of sales figures.
100%. It would be interesting if this was a success, if this then reflected onto the other companies. And I know that, you know, you said, Pad, that you know, this isn't your bag, and
no, it's really not for me.
But if they did the same sort of thing with this, but they bundled in Ratchet and Clank figures, which would fit into this game 100,000%, and probably be brilliant as well, that's going to raise a few eyebrows, and a few people that were going like, I don't like Ratchet and Clank.
It would raise an eyebrow, but I still wouldn't open my wallet.
I think
I really
quite a few
don't.
people would.
I've been trying to acquire Ratchet and Clank figures on their own, and they're hard enough to get as they are. Like, I don't need more. If you didn't pre-order the Ratchet and Clank very first action figure when it came out, thanks Play.com for screwing that up. You're never going to get one again for less than £100.
So yeah, we then bounced into Hyrule Warriors Legends, which it just purely looks like a 3DS version of the game that came out on the Wii U last year. Any Dynasty Warriors fans?
No.
Hyrule Warriors was the first of that ilk that I tried. Being as I'd had a vague interest. If Sean Bell says he's interested in something, I'm probably going to try it. And I know that sounds sycophantic and awful, but he's just someone that I look at and great taste in games. If he says he's interested in something, I'll try it, and even if it's not for me, I'll still appreciate that it is clearly for others. And so Dynasty Warriors was a series that I'd been looking at. Oh, how do I get into this? There was the Vita version was on PS Plus a while ago, and I sort of asked him, is that a place to start? And he said Hyrule Warriors is the way to go. So picked that up and played it, and I think I got about halfway through it, and kind of felt like I'd had my fill. Again, not that I wasn't enjoying it. It's just I felt that at that point it was like, it doesn't feel like the game's offered me that much of anything new in the past 4 or 5 levels.
I had the same. I tried.
Okay
I got the One Piece version of it for review a while ago. I think it was called One Piece Pirate Warriors. And again, I played. I would probably guess about half before I was like, I'm done. I haven't done
again,
anything
that's
new.
not to dismiss it, but it's just I wasn't getting anything more from it at that point, and
exactly.
I've got
agreed.
hundreds of games I otherwise could be trying out and playing. So,
I mean, as I understand it, this is one of the most accessible Dynasty Warriors
very
games
much by
that
all
there's been.
accounts. Yeah.
But I know quite a few people who I wouldn't say are hardcore gamers at all, but say have picked up a Wii U and are big Zelda fans from like years gone by, who picked this up kind of just really knowing that it was a Zelda game and really got into it. As divisive and niche as Dynasty Warriors can seem at times, to see people picking up that kind of game with what looked like a Zelda stencil sort of drawn on top, to see them really clicking with it and really loving the different mechanics, and having all of this amazing fandom sort of added on top. It was interesting to
it's just a different way to interact with those characters that a lot of people have an awful lot of love for. Definitely.
Yeah, it looks like a good sort of platform for this sort of thing to be on, with the with the map being right there, and
definitely,
you can take it out, have a quick swizz for 20 minutes, and put it away again. Like seems like a good platform for it.
Yeah, definitely. And if you've got the new 3DS, then presumably it'll have amiibo functionality like the Wii U version did. So yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So next up was Metroid Prime Federation Force.
Whoa.
Which
Whoa. You've missed something.
There was another Zelda game.
Was there?
Triforce Heroes.
Oh, I've jumped ahead in my notes.
You have.
That was actually before this.
Yeah.
But,
we'll come back to Metroid. Triforce Heroes. What do we think?
I immediately thought, okay, this looks like A Link Between Worlds, but in a Four Swords kind of style, and I like the look of it a lot. Pleased that they said you can play it as a single player with 2 AI characters that you can switch between. So that was kind of what I needed to hear, because I'm just not going to be in the position to play that with 2 other people.
Apparently, you can't play it with two of you. It won't work with one AI. It'll only work with
a
single
3.
or 3.
Yeah, 1 or 3 people.
3 is a strange number as well. I mean, I understand they said they tried it before.
It's the magic
it didn't
number.
Work. Yeah. Oh. Seems like a weird number for this. But then again, Destiny gets away with it, so
Does it automatically send between 3 3DSs if you're in close contact, or does everybody have to have the game, or can you play it with 2 other people over an internet connection? Or
didn't say, as far as I know. I
Absolutely
didn't see any
idea.
information. It's varied in the past on DS, I think, and 3DS, and way back as far as link cables and Game Boys and stuff, as to whether you will need each to have a copy of the game, or whether you can play the whole game just with one cartridge. I doubt that very much. What they might do is have like a challenge area where you can, often there's like a small part of the game that you can play with just one cartridge, and everyone, 2 other people can download a small amount of data and play along with you. But I think always with these things, just assume you're all going to need a cartridge, and if you don't, then big smile on your faces, but assume the worst. And
also, link cables.
I know, me too.
Metroid Prime Federation Force. Petition to stop this from existing, which is just...
What on earth?
What?
If you're a person who would sign a thing to stop a game from existing, just stop playing games. They're not for you.
You know how you sign a petition to stop something existing? You don't buy it. That's how you sign a petition. If there's a game that you don't like the look of, you do not buy it, and the company gets a nice big sign in neon letters. And yeah, the danger of that is that Nintendo thinks people don't want Metroid instead of people don't want this Metroid. But guess what? Sign a petition to say you do want another regular Metroid. That's the positive way to do that. Not this. This is, if the game's not for you, it's not for you. Let someone else enjoy it.
I mean, I turned my nose up a bit at the Blast Ball stuff when I saw it on Nintendo World Championships, but having looked at some of the videos thereafter, it looks like a good laugh. I mean, it's something that I probably won't buy, but stopping it existing, especially when it's nearly finished, just seems mental.
I can see someone thinking this game exists and that's preventing another 2D Metroid or a Metroid Prime from existing, but it's not how this works. It really isn't. Nintendo aren't saying you've got to make this a success, otherwise we're not doing another Metroid. That might be cause to say, hang on a minute, that's not that's not the way to go about this. But they're not. They're making this game. It may be the Metroid name slapped onto something that wasn't Metroid. Okay, it may be that it turns out to be a really fun game. It may still not be the game you want, but yeah, a petition to stop a game existing, what is... You can have petitions for whatever you want. Let's face it, this is freedom of speech. If they want to have a petition, send it to Nintendo, as long as they bear in mind that even if they get 4 million signatures in that petition, Nintendo can look at it and throw it in the bin. They don't have to care.
There's also the irony that if this did sell well, that Nintendo might go, people are really into Metroid games, let's make some of the old ones. But
potentially, yeah.
Lollage. I'm plugging this in here because it wasn't on my list and I remember it on the show. So, Fire Emblem Fates.
That was next, yeah. That was next.
Hooray!
In the show. Nicely timed. Nicely
well
done.
So, this was, as far as I'm aware, was 2 games in Japan, which has been put onto one cartridge over here.
I think that's smart, to be honest.
Yeah, and you can play either side of the story, and you can maybe look at it as good and bad, if you will. But I believe that there's a bit more nuance to this on either side. That say you could get the dark side, if you will, but they're really loyal and they're really strict. And the odd bits that I've seen on the Treehouse stuff has just, firstly, the last that was presenting it was extremely passionate about the game, but it looks really quirky and really cool, and you can have marriage and children in this game as well. And I'm not sure how well the original sold, but as I understand it was pretty complicated. Sorry, pretty complex rather. And those that did play it properly fell into it.
Yeah, Fire Emblem's a series that seems to have over here maybe not quite as many as in, well, obviously not quite as many as in Japan, but Fire Emblem Awakening came out a couple of years back, and like Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, it showed that a game that's been considered niche for a long time actually has a big growing audience. As far as I know, it was successful. I know a lot of people were talking about it when it came out, and I think the smart thing here is making it one cartridge, because yeah, you could get people just to buy one or the other, but you're not going to get that many people buy both. I don't think that's not a way to get people into the series. Whereas in Japan, people will buy one and then potentially buy the other, or trade for the other, or whatever. But here, it's I think it makes sense to have 2 in one.
Yeah, I think in Japan they had them as separate cartridges, but if you bought one digitally, I think you got the second one a little bit cheaper, or it was some.
Makes sense,
But it's cool that we're essentially getting two massive games smashed into one cartridge. Plus, it looks pretty as anything as well.
Oh yeah, those games have really nice art style, and it's never really about the graphical grunt. You know, even Awakening was on 3DS, which isn't the most advanced system visually, but they always make it look great by having great art design, which is always really nice and a good way to go about it.
So, if anything typified Nintendo's digital event versus the things that that were discovered thereafter, Shin Megami Tensei versus Fire Emblem.
Okay, I have a question about this. Right, I watched this trailer. Right, what is this?
Right, I can answer this.
Me and Laura sat here, we watched it, and we got to the end, and we were like, "What is that? A dancing game? What is it?"
Right, I can answer this. I can answer this massively because this is my game of the show. But you wouldn't guess it from that initial shabby, terrible trailer that Nintendo put out, which didn't even show the name of the game on the video sequence.
No,
which was just bizarre.
And kept all the language in Japanese as well.
Right, this is the thing with this game, and I'm trying to remember this. So if this goes a little way off, bear with me. But this is kind of it's made by the same director as the what they called the Devil Survivor stuff, and it's kind of referred to as like a J-pop RPG that in the center of sort of Tokyo and Shibuya, you've got these creatures that are invading via a thing called the idolosphere, and they're mirages, and they feed on the creativity and the happiness of people. And there are pop singers, pop idols that will inspire people and will try and, like for example, they've got a young girl in there who wants to be a pop idol after seeing one of these sort of idols in the center of Tokyo, but is fed upon by these mirages, and as one of the idols, or you can trap the mirages in one of the stores in Shibuya, which then turns it into a dungeon, and then you can like defeat them within this and take them on in a battle, which is partway Persona's battle system and partway Fire Emblem's battle system. And they've cast actors in Japan who can sing. That which apparently is a challenge for the dubbed version as well. They've got people that are big pop songwriters in Japan working on the songs for it. I'm all over this like it's made of ham. It just seems to be bright and colourful, and you can see that what looks like the little cardboard cutouts in the video are people's kind of energy and their happiness. And when the mirages kind of take over, that darkens, and it just looks tremendous amount of fun. It looks like a celebration of Japanese RPGs, and I don't know, for me personally, like a little commentary on a love of music and the cloud of depression, and basing, you know, dungeons within actual stores and stuff, and it just looks stupendously imaginative. I really like the concept, and I really, really can't wait for this. But you wouldn't have guessed all of that from that terrible trailer that was smashed into Nintendo's digital event.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten any of that.
No, but
Definitely not.
I mean, I don't know how that sounds from the explanation, but that's a game that I've not played before. And as much as I enjoyed a good JRPG, and I like Japanese pop, and I'm really interested in Japanese media and stuff, that just sounds really unusual. And the stuff that was on Nintendo Treehouse, where they were talking to the creator, just looked daft amounts of fun.
to be fair, I think that sounds like a game that would be very, very difficult to explain in any coherent way to an audience at, or in this case, watching a digital event.
But they were quite succinct in the way that they explain that beyond my kind of cat-handed attempt at doing it
in the treehouse,
in the opening stuff within the treehouse, and I think that for me is a problem of this digital event versus last year's, because last year Nintendo presented Splatoon, and one of the successes people said quite rightly was the creators sat down and they told you how it played. As it wasn't just they smashed out like a 90-second trailer and moved on to something else. You got the creators saying what they were trying to do, the focus on the characters, the actual gameplay and stuff, and people came away with a genuine feeling as to what Splatoon might be like. And if they'd done the same with Splatoon, it would have been kind of here and gone within no time. But they created that thirst, that desire in people to know more, which was then backed up by folks playing it on the show floor and articles and stuff like that. So
I think the advantage the trailer did have is that anyone who's a fan of Shin Megami Tensei or any part of that universe, and anyone who's a fan of Fire Emblem, would have seen enough in that trailer to say, I'm going to go and find out more about this. So I think they got away with the fact that for a lot of people, they don't need to know much more than those two franchises are involved in this. That means I'm interested, and they will go and do their homework.
I think it's an accessible concept, though.
Sure.
And especially with folks do love. Is it Hikuni Mi? I don't know, the blue-haired Vocaloid girl. Yeah. And pop music and JRPGs are sort of having a somewhat of a renaissance. Even spending that extra 2 minutes like they did on the Treehouse, just explaining what it was, I think would have been really cool, because I just think the music and the JRPG and the dungeons and the real world meets the fantastical, and I think that's something that would have raised the eyebrow of quite a lot of folks who maybe wouldn't jump into this sort of thing.
I do have one question just to help listeners and myself out if they should want to go and find out more. You said it was Shin Megami Tensei versus Fire Emblem. I've got written down here Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem.
Yeah, I think that's the official
Cross is
one.
the official title.
Yeah, or times depending. So I think from here it bounced into Xenoblade Chronicles X, where we actually got a December 4th release date. I don't remember much from this trailer, but I am desperate for it. That I need this game in my life. And I've watched, the Nintendo digital event previously, which went into loads of the mechanics of the game and little things like you can run past one of the massive creatures in the world and they won't even look at you, but once you've got your mech, if you run past them, suddenly you're in that creature's eye line and it sees you as a threat. Little things like that. And I am so into this game. Xenoblade Chronicles was a masterpiece, and this just looks stunning.
No, it's been around for the past couple of E3s as well, and it's kind of one that always seems to get just this massive reaction that people just want this, and they tend to obviously lean on more of the kind of I guess it's not CG, but it seems to be more of the sort of cinematic trailer type footage, which is kind of how this sort of game goes. But it's one that's high on my list and has been for some time, and nice to see a release date of 6 months hence. So
I think this is one that sells itself visually, even within the time frame that they've got. But at least there is the information there.
And that game on Wii U could look spectacular as well.
Well, a lot's been made of the fact that we use an underpowered system, but this does look belting. Apparently,
you design your game right, and it absolutely flies on Wii U. To be honest,
apparently there's an optional 8 gig download as well once you've got the game.
Is it optional, CJ? Is it?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, yeah.
To you, I mean.
Optional, optional bosses in Dark Souls. It's optional, of course it is.
For me, it's there, but you can run the game from disc and have longer loading times, or you can accept an 8 GB download to the Wii U's hard drive, and the game will run faster, which is the first time I've seen that done on the Wii U, especially considering that even the top end models have only got 32 gigs of space. So some people might have to get their shovel out, kick out a few odd bits.
Or just load
happily
slightly
with
slower.
with Wii U, external hard drives are good as well. They are for all the current systems actually.
I'll be interested to see if there's any special editions that are announced later on for this, because I think it's deserving of it.
Are those optional as well?
Not for me, sir. No, they're not. Seriously, I've seen that one of the companies in Japan is making the models of the mechs.
Yeah.
And they just look spectacular. And I love the fact that they can be a robot or a car or a bike or just... And the garage section in there seems to be pretty much Armoured Core's garage, which is... I don't know. Oh, and also from somebody who watches a lot of anime and worships at the ground of one of the greatest soundtrack musicians ever, which is Sawano-san, to hear his score for the game just twists knots in my stomach. The man's a god, and as far as I'm concerned, he's one of the greatest people making soundtracks at the moment. So, over the moon, in a footballing cliche. Let me see. Next, there was the double-barreled niceness of Animal Crossing Happy Home and Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival Designer.
Should we start with Happy Home?
Let's go for both of them.
Okay, what Happy Home is? That is just normal Animal Crossing, isn't it? You run around and make a nice house and walk about. That I didn't. Why is it Happy Home?
It's on the Wii U and it seems to be.
Is it? I thought
it's
that
3DS,
was just
isn't it?
3DS.
Is it? I thought that was the Wii U one. The other, no, maybe I've got it backwards.
This is,
sorry. No.
Yeah, it's the 3DS one. You run around and make a nice house, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why this one's called Happy Home Designer. I understand you design your home a bit better, but I don't know a lot about Animal Crossing. I'm the worst one on this part of the show. I have no idea what's going on with any of these games.
I just assume that in the past, interior design of your home was as optional as anything else. It was one part of the game that you could really lean into if you wanted to, and you could design stuff and create QR codes for it to share it and stuff in the last one. And whereas in this, it seems like it's kind of more the focus of the game. Again, Gary was on the Skype call with me, and as he mentioned there was a new Animal Crossing to his other half, and she was excited. He said, "Oh, it's just a home designer," and that was all she needed to know. She was even more happy. So I think for a certain group of people who are involved in Animal Crossing and like the interior design and the kind of buying and upgrading of the home, it's just going to speak volumes to those people. So.
Yeah,
I think there is something to be said for meeting a hedgehog in the centre of a town, eventually being invited back to their house and finding out that their carpet is like moon rock, their wallpaper is space, and that they've got some sort of flaming rocket in the middle of their living room, which obscures a television and a sofa, but they're happy with that. Also, do you remember that I did a Paddy Stardust t-shirt?
I do. I was going to mention that.
My previous Animal Crossing. I quite liked the time that I spent with the 3DS Animal Crossing, and it was one of those where I tended to just pick it up before I went to sleep and just twatted around and kind of saw how many peaches that I got and buried a few more and enjoyed the special events and stuff. And it's a fun little game, and it's another one of those where I got torn away from it by playing other stuff. But a friend of mine, Ellie, has just picked up a 3DS, and she's rather dismayed that nobody's playing it anymore. And she was like, "I want to invade people's towns." I was like, "You don't invade. You go on a visit." She was like, "Oh no, I'm going to invade." So that's a lady with a shovel and some trouble. So the Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival Designer was more of a board game.
Yeah.
Do all of the amiibos come in the box? Because there's 4 of them, isn't there?
Heavily doubt that.
There's already been at least one amiibo for an Animal Crossing character.
The villager one.
Villager,
yeah.
No, these, as far as I could tell, there was KK Slider.
Mm-hmm.
There was the blue hedgehog thing.
Sonic.
It more or less is actually. Yeah. there was Evil Genius Tom Nook, and there was. I'm sure there was 4 when I saw it on the Treehouse. But from what I got from the Treehouse stuff was that every kind of run around the board that you do takes place in a season, and there's the variations in season from the main game affects bonuses and little tweaks within the game as you go along as well. And when you put your amiibo onto the 3DS screen, that rolls the dice, which I thought was kind of cool. But yeah, it's one that I didn't get a tremendous amount of joy from on the digital event, but having seen the Treehouse stuff, it just looks like fun. And while I may not play it alone, I can imagine families just having a stupendous time with this. And the kids Skylanders style, like, oh, can I put the amiibo on and can I roll the dice for you? And I like the thought of a family having a really good time with that.
But I hate to be Mr. Negative Nancy. Every player needs an amiibo for it to work.
Yeah, but I think
that strikes me
in the box.
They all come in the box.
All of them.
There's 4 with it, as far as I can tell.
Really?
I suppose it would make sense if you could have 4 people playing the board game on the same console to have one for each player, so they each have a like you would Monopoly or any other board game. If some people
I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like, why couldn't I just play with a Wiimote? Like, that's just me being very anti.
Yeah, but
and I understand that it's fun, but
but part of the fun in this case is that whilst we criticise the amiibo for the little that they bring to other games, in this specific, it is a case of like, oh, touch them on the screen and they roll the dice, and it knows which player's doing that, and I presume it's retaining that information sort of game by game, season by season as it goes along. So I've got no criticism of amiibos with this game, particularly because they're all in the box.
How much is this going to cost? 4 amiibo and a game? That's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, but you can
Mario Party game, basically. Like it.
Yeah, but you can then contrast this to what are those Lego Dimension sets going for elsewhere?
Equally shit.
Yeah, but they're like 80, 100 quid, are they? This I'd imagine for amiibos, the game maybe 60 quid.
I think you'd be lucky to see 80.
Yeah, maybe.
I really do.
We'll
anyway,
see,
this is me being upset at Nintendo pushing their amiibo agenda on me. Stop pushing your agenda on me.
But they're not
Nintendo.
pushing anything upon you, Sony boy. This ain't for you. If a family's picking this up at Christmas, and this is going to be something that they play on Christmas Day or when people are around together, I can just imagine this being a stonking laugh and kids just killing themselves laughing over it. And say like a little one wanting to touch the screen with the amiibo for granny or whatever it might be. Just imagine this being actually the sort of game that would draw family members in to having fun with a video game in the same way as the original Nintendo Wii did. Then it might not necessarily be for them, but they're caught up in families playing together, and I dig that. So, cute-wise, we then spin and sashay towards Yoshi's Woolly World, which just, God, want to cuddle them.
E3's yarn agenda coming back.
And to be fair, this one at least stems from a few years ago. That you can't claim this is jumping on any bandwagon because Kirby's Epic Yarn is just one of the most fantastic Wii games. It's not a tough platformer. It is good fun in co-op, but it's just the most lovely game to play. It really is. It's not stressful. It's plenty of fun, and there's lots of ingenuity, as there would be with any Nintendo platformer, in terms of how the in that case the yarn, in this case the wool, works. It's just really nice. And to have wool amiibos with it is just a really nice touch. Can't wait for this at all.
I do like the little where you can wave it and it becomes the colour of the one you've got. That's cute. I thought that was cute.
Did you see the Mario one?
The Mario and the Samus ones, yeah.
That got like the little moustache drawn on the front, and it looked like it was just added on in marker. Yeah, that was marvellous.
Although what happens when the cat decides that woolly yarn amiibo is a cat toy?
Nintendo have a second sale, sir. But you got the lady that was saying that she wanted to try and make them out of yarn, and there was kind of a really sweet tale there. But I saw on Twitter somebody said all of those ones on the table, that's as many as they've made, which is great. But I mean this is a game that I wasn't going to pick up, but the more and more I look at it, I'm thinking I'm not playing anything like that at the minute, and I'd like to.
Absolutely. Especially if you find yourself at any point with someone else to play with, because that looks just the right amount of co-op, but you can kind of screw with one another a little bit. Do you
remember, Paddy, when you came over and we had that amazing time on the Super Mario World on Wii U?
Oh yeah, we climbed out a few times because I wouldn't let you go to the end.
You were an agent of chaos. There was no co-op here, ladies and gentlemen. No. It was like, Paddy, why in the...
I found the thing that shoots the balls, and you were the target, so simple.
Well, it was weird in that instance how a game that plays one way on a single player was so radically different playing with two, and I'd imagine sort of with that'll apply to Yoshi's Woolly World as well. Plus, the more games that you can play on the couch, and dig elbows into partners, or like have play fights or whatever spins out of them, the more the merrier.
Yeah.
So yes. The next one I'd heard about beforehand because of the magnificent 8-4 Play podcast. There was Yokai Watch, which I believe is on its third iteration in Japan now.
I believe the mantra in this game was, that looks like Pokemon, this is really big in Japan, bigger than Pokemon.
Well, from what they said from 8-4 Play, because it's level 5 that's done it.
Oh, okay.
That it's not so much the games in Japan, it's the merchandise, it's the other stuff, it's the toys, it's the animated series that you can't actually move in Japan without seeing this stuff, and they were surprised that it's taken this long to actually come to the West, and also that the third one, which has just been released in Japan, is actually set in America. So it'll be interesting to see if the Western version of the first game is set in Japan, or as to whether they're going to try and set it in America and then maybe move the third game elsewhere. I don't know, but I'm actually up for this. I have not played a Pokemon game for quite some time, but I just like the idea of it. And I do think it's interesting that they're smoothing over the fact that look at these yokai. They're very cute little characters, when yokai are actually ghosts, aren't they, in Japan?
So the game's called Ghostwatch.
They're essentially cute spirits of the dead.
Cool.
With cute.
But
yeah, I quite like this.
Bus.
I quite like the look of this, and I am curious to experience what is over there. A cultural Japanese phenomenon, as it seems, between all of the other stuff. And I was telling a friend about this when I listened to the 8-4 Play episode, and I just got a text in the middle of the digital event. It was like, "This is the thing you were telling me about," and I was like, we're both picking this up. So,
doesn't look as good as Digimon.
Any other thoughts on that one?
No, this was the first I'd heard of it. I'm ashamed to say.
I'd heard of it, but I'd never seen it. I mean, this was my first viewing of it as well. And it's Pokemon, all right.
Have you any experience with the Paper Mario games? Because next we had Papercraft Mario, which I couldn't quite get my head around, to be honest.
This seemed to be, unless I'm mistaken, I may well be, but it seemed to be a merging of the Mario RPG series and Paper Mario series.
Oh, cool.
That's what I got.
That's
as well
what I took away from it, because it was Mario and Luigi Papercraft, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
And I think at least the last Mario RPG was Mario and Luigi Dream something or other. I can't remember. But yeah, that's what I took away from this, which seems like a nice merging of two kind of slightly niche takes on Mario and that world and stuff. And we had Paper Mario Sticker Star, I think it was, on 3DS, which some people liked, some people not so hot on. So this a nice way to kind of bring those two disparate games together, I think, by the look of it. Looks interesting, but never played either one of the Mario RPG or Paper Mario series. So
I'm sure I saw something of this on. Yeah, I'm sure I saw something of this on the last Treehouse, and it looked bonkers.
Yeah.
It just looked absolutely bonkers, but I didn't really get that much. I didn't get that kind of that wild feeling that I'd gotten from previous viewings on this. It just looked like a little bit, but what's going on? As opposed to like, that's daft. I'd play that. We then had Mario Tennis, which just seemed like Mario Tennis.
You take that back, sir.
No, it looked very, very Mario Tennis.
It's like tennis, but sometimes you can get big.
Yeah.
So it's yawn tennis, like lawn tennis. I've never played a Mario Tennis game, but as I understand it, they're a lot of fun. But they don't appear to have changed an awful amount.
No,
and I can only imagine you'd be playing this one mostly with a Wiimote, which would make it very similar to the last iteration.
Plenty of broken
Wii
TVs
Sports.
and the like. Yeah.
Friggin' Wii Sports Tennis. That was the hot stuff. Played the hell out of Wii Sports Tennis. That was the greatest. And I don't know. It doesn't look like it does anything more other than the character gets big.
Oh, power-ups and stuff like that. Yeah.
But it's not lit a fire under me. Tennis never does.
That is absolutely fair enough. But yeah, Mario Tennis, much like Mario Strikers on the Wii, just great fun games and very arcadey versions of sports games, which, as I think we mentioned when we were talking about Forza, arcade racers tend to be my thing, and when it comes to sports, something like NBA Jam would be more of my style than say an NBA Live or a FIFA or something. So if it's arcade sports games with Nintendo characters in, I'm more than happy enough. Just nice, easy to play, fun party games, really.
Yeah.
Or NBA Jelly, as they call it in America.
You, sir, get control of yourself, please.
God.
I'm amused by my own joke. That's terrifying. Far more than the people around me
NBA
over
chips.
the internet. Yeah.
Truly, our
so
roles
then,
have switched today.
So Super Mario Maker closed the show.
Well, they'd been teasing this all the way through, hadn't they? If it wasn't Muppets between segments, it was little sections of Mario games that we know and love, but done slightly differently.
I mean, as far as I can tell, it comes with a massive book detailing game design, which looks like quite a wondrous tome in of itself.
Just have it for the art, yeah.
Book, yeah.
I mean, being taught how to design games by Miyamoto, especially with that book, would be pretty cool. But I mean, it's a bit of a curio to me, and whilst many will throw it out a la the much more complicated mechanics of something like Little Big Planet, which, you know, many folks just couldn't be asked attaching strings to things. And in 10 years' time, could we be seeing the next wave of game designers that maybe started from messing around with Mario Maker?
Yeah, I think there is something to be said for having a more structured sandbox to play and design in. Whereas obviously with Little Big Planet, it's so open-ended, even as structured as it could be, you could kind of make anything with it, so it became difficult to see how intricate something could be because the basics kind of got in the way, whereas this I mean, by the sounds of it, they talked through how they used to have, graph paper and they draw out all the levels and they'd have to alter stuff and change it, etc. But it sounds like they're saying they've made a sort of publicly usable version of what they use now to make levels, which is just, well, there you go. Albeit a proprietary piece of design software, but yeah, why not see if you can put together a decent level? You could start off by recreating, as everyone always does, World 1-1 from Super Mario, and and go on from there.
That's a bold move.
But you know what I mean? You can see if you can do
totally.
something already that you've got an example to test it against, and then tweak it and change it, and then you can see how the path to being a designer or a creator of something genuinely new could come from that, which is nice.
Keeps it dead simple as well, doesn't it? It's the time splitters map maker compared to say Little Big Planet's Unreal Ed. It's here's the thing, put it there, see if it works. Boom.
Yeah, you got the thing that made me smile was Miyamoto saying that the first level that he designs in a Mario game becomes level 2, and then he'll go back to level 1.
Really nice. Yes, strip it down, make it simpler to get the basics and the tutorial stuff in. Really nice.
This one's grown on me the more that I've thought about it thereafter. When it was first announced last year, I was like, meh. But that book looks like it's going to be a fantastic read. Fantastic read even beyond the game itself, just to see sort of to get into the mind of Miyamoto and how he approaches this sort of stuff.
So yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Even if I didn't play the game, I'd like to read the book.
Has it got a campaign? Jesus Christ!
I don't think in that regard it has, but I know that the levels that people design you can play. I think they get uploaded elsewhere. So
it wouldn't surprise me if there were some kind of demo levels in there just to show what you could make. I mean, you would have to have something in there just as a tutorial.
Oh, cool.
Here's how you put this level together, or whatever. So.
As these sort of things go, it looks incredibly accessible. Possibly more than I've seen a level design editor in a long time.
Also, incredibly easy to be a real troll and just halfway along a level, just put a wall that you can't get past.
I did like there's a bit at the end that made me laugh when Miyamoto and his friend, whose name I've forgotten, was sitting there going, you can be a great course designer as well, and they just start laughing. Like, fuck off. Sure you will. Try, little people.
So, what were your thoughts on the Nintendo show as a whole?
I thought it was very telling that Reggie very early on said, "We're making our new game platform. We're talking about mobile." Where we've talked about mobile and everyone knows the NX is a thing, we're not talking about that. See you next year. I thought that was very telling that they felt the need to get out ahead and just say, look, if you're here for the NX, don't stick around.
They apologised for the show afterwards as well, didn't they? Because the reaction was that poor.
Yeah, well, didn't they? It was one of those weird sort of apologies that wasn't. We're making good games. It's fine. It felt like a very sort of, I don't know, like it was very well put together. It was very sort of well paced, and it was quite slickly produced, but didn't light any fires under me. No. Like, it wasn't really. And again, that's not because like you said, I'm not the biggest Nintendo fan. Not a lot of these things excite me in the way that, oh look, it's Metroid, yay! Like, it doesn't do that for me. But I don't know, it just felt like not mediocre, maybe tepid is the best word. Lukewarm.
I think so. Last year, Nintendo had the advantage that most people came away from Microsoft and Sony's conferences thinking, okay, yeah, all right, it's a lot of games that we're not going to see yet, or stuff we're not really that excited about. So whereas this year everyone seemed to be, or a lot of people seemed to be, much more enthused about what Microsoft and Sony had to show, which meant that by comparison Nintendo, I think there is a little bit of a, by comparison rather than actually out and out, Nintendo's show was that much worse this year. But just looking at it, a lot of the stuff I was excited about, even Star Fox, we already knew there was a Star Fox game coming because they mentioned that in the previous direct, albeit they hadn't confirmed it was actually going to be a game, but Miyamoto had said that he was working on a Star Fox idea, basically. and we saw Zelda, but it wasn't the Zelda people wanted to see. And we saw Xenoblade and Yoshi's Woolly World and even Mario Maker that we've seen multiple times at this point, and people are probably
and are coming out quite soon as well, aren't they?
When you compare it to Fallout 4, which is announced out in 6 months, kind of this is the third time we've seen it. This is now 2.5 years after it was originally announced or whatever, before it's going to be coming out. Feels a little bit like, and what more do you have to show us is the next question, you know.
Well, I think last year Nintendo kind of had a few megatons as well. I mean, I mentioned about it was great to see sort of Splatoon and the explanation of how it played and the detailing there, but they also had you already knew about Bayonetta 2. Bayonetta 1's coming with it, and you can have like the Nintendo unlock costumes, and you also had the Wii U Zelda reveal, and those kind of bullet points within the conference then translated into people wanting to know more afterwards and bouncing into Treehouse, and Treehouse being as brilliant last year as it was this year. And you can't fault the Nintendo folks that have been presenting Treehouse, because they're amazing. And the fact that they've actually got creators on with them, and they're going into half an hour's worth of intricacy on the games, absolutely. But I didn't think that there was those kind of bomb drops that were in the previous ones weren't there in this conference.
Yeah, that's fair.
And, I mean, the one thing that I'll add from the Treehouse stuff that I saw afterwards, which looks absolutely amazing and wasn't mentioned anywhere in the conference, was Fatal Frame: The Maiden in Black, where brand new Fatal Frame game on the Wii U, but the camera obscura is the gamepad. So you're actually holding the thing up to the screen to take the picture. Looks fantastic. Looks scary as anything. I love the fact that the gamepad is the camera, that you're actually holding the camera obscura this time, and it looks fantastic. And yet, nowhere to be seen, and would have been an interesting colour within that conference, I think. But the stuff sort of shown afterwards with Alison Rapp again. She was incredibly passionate about it, but the game looks good, and I just feel that maybe that might have passed a lot of people by who only saw the digital event.
Yeah, sure. I think overall it was kind of 2 years ago was the first time Nintendo said, we're not doing a press conference, we're going to do this digital direct instead, Nintendo Direct. And I think by last year, people had really come round to the idea of maybe Nintendo don't need a press conference. But what I actually heard more than one person say in reference to this year was, it felt like the atmosphere of a live event was noticeable by its absence, seeing Nintendo after seeing the press conferences, particularly Sony and Microsoft, where they got standing ovations for some stuff, lots of whooping, lots of audience interaction. Actually, Bethesda as well can be thrown in with that lot, where you got a sense of the excitement in the room. I'm not necessarily someone who believes that. I think Nintendo can do a fantastic, and have done fantastic, Nintendo Directs where they don't have that audience interaction, but you see it on Twitter when it's going live, and you feel it when you're talking to people about it. It's just this year again, the presentation was great. I thought the way they paced the digital direct was okay, but the presentation with the Muppets and then blending in the Mario Maker stuff I thought was really good. It's just they don't seem to have the games. They seem to be back where they were kind of a year into the Wii U's life, where it's all distant stuff to come that we know is coming, and they either didn't show or didn't really focus on. But yeah, it just seems there's a bit of a zing missing from this year that they maybe had last year, which is a shame.
I just wonder how people judge Nintendo as a company by that direct alone, because the more it's kind of bedded in afterwards, the more I've delved into the Treehouse footage, and it didn't seem as bad as it initially did when I was just sighing my way through the conference. But while it can be said that Nintendo are in a place where they're waiting for the NX now, and a lot of the games that I think that we thought could be in here or maybe should be are clearly being held back for the NX. And I think it's important for them to get a good console launch that, say, launches with a Zelda or a Metroid, or at least has those stepping stones to run through its first year. But the presentation and the way that they put together this year's show, it's important for Nintendo to retain a company profile as well that takes them through to the NX, and I don't think that came across with the initial show. I think there was more of it in the Treehouse stuff, but in the show itself there were a lot of people that might have tuned into that who maybe weren't asked about Nintendo, that maybe are less asked about Nintendo.
Yeah, I think that's the question, isn't it? Who's seen that and thinks there's the game that I was waiting for to buy a Wii U or a 3DS, versus a lot of people saying, now I really need to get a PS4 or an Xbox One. That's the problem, is as a hardware manufacturer, you kind of need to be going all guns blazing if you want to be perceived as quote unquote competing and quote unquote winning E3, which aren't ways I like to think of it, because you know, I own all systems. I'm not looking for them to sell me a system. I'm looking for them to make me feel good about the games that are coming out, and I'll play the good games wherever they are. Yeah, it's just there's a couple of games that I'm clearly going to be getting for the Wii U. It's just, it'd be nice, yeah, if there was a sense that there was now some people saying, okay, I now need a Wii U where I haven't done before, and that's kind of where they don't feel like maybe they're moving forward.
I think Nintendo's a valid second system for a lot of people as well. That there might be somebody that, say, got a PC and plays all the PC games, or has got a PS4 and plays solely on that, but Nintendo offers something different that you won't get on that console. That, say, maybe that second purchase, they wouldn't be looking at like an Xbox One or something that's very similar to the sort of stuff that they're already playing. And I think if Nintendo can club people over the head with those games with the NX launch, they need to do that on the one hand, but I'd be very surprised if they didn't go to a live event for next year to maybe sort of drum up those, you know, the cheers and the whooping that you mentioned for were there in other conferences.
Especially if they are going to be announcing a new hardware.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm reluctant to say
Whatever
a
it
new
might
console
be.
because they keep talking about it as a gaming platform, and that's raising, you know, thoughts about, is this going to be an Android-based or mobile-based platform that you can also put onto your TV, etc. Who knows? They've said they're going to talk about it in 2016. Maybe that's E3. Maybe it's at Nintendo Directs or Nintendo events otherwise. But yeah, it's one of those things. I think we all know there are plenty of games on the Wii U that are worth playing and are fantastic games. And as a system, it's actually, for many people, arguably the one that's the best out of the three that are quote unquote current gen systems. But yeah, on this showing, I think they're going to be struggling to find people who are now enthused about Nintendo who weren't before. Is maybe
definitely
the disappointing thing.
So, to quote from a wise and ginger man, moving swiftly on,
Hey.
we then go to Square's strange little event.
Is it Square Enix? They couldn't decide over the entire event. They said about 19 different ways.
I don't know. It's interesting to see that a company that seemed to be flailing a few years ago now have a little bit more
Confident
sort of
enough
under
to
their
put
wings.
together a
Yeah,
press
and
conference,
a few strange, wonderfully strange decisions in there.
and for me, almost the polar opposite of Nintendo.
Yeah, they seem to be.
Anyways.
There seemed to be a fair bit in there, and I mean they launched it with the kind of obvious Just Cause 3 getting a December the 1st release date. For my side of things, I played 2 into the ground.
Yeah.
The story was bullshit, but that was one of those games where, and also the soundtrack was terrible in Just Cause 2. But that was a game where I'd stick a memory stick into the Xbox 360, and initially I was playing a Commodore 64 chiptunes, which made it seem like even more gamey and even more laughable as I was, you know, sort of in helicopters and blowing the hell out of. I mean, per now, normally I've got a decent moral compass for a game, but that place might as well have been called Everyone's a Cunt, because the death count that I brought to that place was just immense. But yeah, I kind of gamed it with these Commodore 64 tunes, but then I put in a memory stick with loads of Radiohead stuff in there, and suddenly the sunset falling on Panau and this massive amount of destruction, all of it suddenly seemed like really poignant.
I was going to say melancholia going on there.
Yeah, it was great, but it's interesting to see how a soundtrack can affect the way that you're playing a game and stuff. And it's hearing very sort of sad songs and melancholy songs, as you were saying, sort of over that degree of destruction and wanton chaos was blissful, frankly. But it did sort of stop me in my tracks a little bit as to just how contrasting it was. But
I think with Just Cause 3, you can I just sum it up by saying more grappling, more vehicles, more destructibility, and more explosions. Anyone who enjoyed that Just Cause 2 enjoyed it for those reasons, and there's more of them.
The thing is, with Just Cause, like, the problem I have with the Just Cause games is, like, it seems to be the game that appears to be designed exactly for me, but I don't get on with it. Like, you list all the things you can do. You know, you can grapple things to things, and you can strap men to things that blow up, and you can do cool stunts. And I've tried to get into Just Cause 2. Like, I mean, I played the first one. I played the whole thing on the PS2, and dear God, that was an effort. But yeah, the loading times were amazing. But Just Cause 2, I've tried so many times to get into it, and I just cannot click with it. And this trailer just looks like, yeah, that stuff all looks cool, but I can't attach to it somehow, and I'm kind of stunned as to how. It's weird. It seemed to be quite a dry presentation of what looked like super rad stuff. Like, hey, he's doing a flip off a car, but he's very serious when he does it.
Yeah, but I think that's the main character in of himself. Is it Rico Rodriguez, who's was just terrible. But the Just Cause 2, I don't think I really did that many of the missions. I just went across a world and just tried to take over as many places as I could. And there were odd little bits which made me laugh, like you blow up a couple of oil refineries and you get the radio going like, we would just like to tell all of the citizens that there is no problems whatsoever. We had an issue with one of the nuclear plants, but everything's fine. And that kind of made me giggle. But it was in the same way as I play Destiny, and I'll listen to podcasts and I'll just have fun with it on my own. That was Just Cause 2 for me. I'd just like, oh look, here's a play. I'm gonna blow the shit out of that garage, and then everything. I mean, there was an escalation in Just Cause 2 whereby the more chaos that you did, the more trouble that arrived, and it's difficult to kind of get to a point where those things play down at times. Sometimes it ramps up to a point that you can't do anything other than die. But I'm up for this, I must admit.
So for me, Saints Row was that game for me. Because it's all that same stuff, but with a massive, stupid grin on its face.
But I never clicked with Saints Row.
Yeah, it's weird.
And I should have done. Because when I was seeing sort of things like Saints Row 2 and Saints Row 3, I was thinking like, oh, this is pushing my Just Cause button. But for me, Saints Row didn't control as well as Just Cause 2 did. I found it very, very easy to kind of shoot things and move around, and I missed the ability to bionic commando over everything that I could see. Yeah,
exact opposite for me. I found Saints Row easy to control and Just Cause awkward. There's a dedicated button to kick a man in the bollocks. Like,
yeah, but on Just Cause you can see a man across the other side of the road, maybe 2 or 3 buildings away, and you can not only punch him in the face but bring him right to you.
That's true, but in Saints Row, when you're just jogging down the road and you see a man and you think, I don't like that man, you can just run up and give him a sick wrestling move and then do a pose for the camera.
Yeah, but on Just Cause 2, you can go to the highest building that you could possibly find, get into a helicopter, go up into the clouds, and find some sort of rich person's city in the clouds, and then you can jump off that and wait 7 minutes before you hit the ground.
That was in the first one as well. And you hold the slow button as well. You're like, "Yep, I'm going to be here for a while."
I love those games.
That bit was good. I'll give you that.
Or I'm sure on one of them I was jumping down and I realised that I could parachute to the last bits, but can I grab that plane? Yes, I can. Or can I get into a jumbo jet that's taking off from an airport and somehow climb out of the window and ride the top of it like a loon? Yes.
So the obvious question is why should you do any of those things? Just cause.
Wee. So I will move across to the wonderful James Carter for the next announcement, because I know it would be it's essentially glitter chaps for the gentleman concerned.
Just before we get there, and yes, I am putting on my spangly trousers.
Dirty bitch.
They did throw up a screen with 4 indie games on it, say nothing at all about them, and move on. Which is kind of emblematic of the Square Enix conference, unfortunately.
But a lot's been said about the fact that they are sort of putting a lot into indie development. And I think they've offered a number of their licenses up to potentially be run into indie games, but to have it sort of flash through with some sort of strange montage is bizarre.
Moonhunters, Tokyo Dawn, Black the Fall, and I don't know how to pronounce the other one, Geisha or Goetia. I don't know how it's pronounced.
All right.
They literally just put a 4-way slide up on and mention. I don't think they were even talking about those games. Just bizarre.
They seem to do that a little bit later on, though, with a montage that seemed really out of place in the running order. So
yeah, bizarre. Presentation possibly not what we'd scored Square Enix well on in this conference, but lots of talking and not a lot of showing in some cases.
But then Nier.
So of any game in this show that I was surprised about, and that includes all the stuff at the Sony show, this one, because it wasn't even rumoured, it wasn't a game anyone thought was ever going to exist, and then they just casually mentioned that not only are they making some kind of Nier game, they didn't even call it Nier 2, it's just a Nier game, but Platinum are working on it, and the list of talent they put up in that, albeit fairly short, fairly non-committal CG trailer, but the list of people from Nier, but also from other Square games, Bravely, Default games, and the like, just absolutely bananas. And then just the icing on the cake, I am sure people were left scratching their heads at this, but one of the producers of the game walked out with an Emil head on, which for anyone who's played Nier, that character, I mean, that's one of the most memorable moments in Nier is that character, well, particular points in that character's story. Just, I'm sure it looked crazy and it looked like a bunch of people who didn't know what they were doing, but to me, just the fact that this game could exist, and I realise I'm getting excited about smoke at this point, but
I realised I got excited.
How hard did this hit you?
My other half, Anne-Marie, was on the phone next to me, and I was just punching her in the arm. My jaw was agape, literally. It was just, what is happening here?
I was doing the same. I was smacking my tabletop and going, oh, it's happening! It was the music. As the music kicked in, that's when it was like, no.
Yeah, it's bananas. Nier is in my sort of, if I was making lists, top 10 games of all time. I know it has big problems. I know a lot of people will not like that game, famously so in some cases.
Yeah, but ambition. I mean, even looking from afar, it seems to do a hell of a lot, maybe more than it has any right to do. But I never ever damn a game for ambition.
And the storytelling in it is beyond measure.
It's stunning.
The way I feel about it is the way I hear people talking about whichever of the Final Fantasies is their favourite game, and the things that those games can do with storytelling and with characters that you don't see in other games. And the attachment you can get to what is, after all, a fictional digital character. Yeah, that game is that for me. And for a game that is ostensibly somewhat of a Zelda clone-ish, but in a very sort of JRPG style, it's easy to reduce that game to its bare parts and have it look like nothing that impressive. But no, to me that was the surprise of the show, and having come off, and I'm sure anyone listening who listened to us talking about the Sony show, having come off those announcements, which seemed to just be jaw-dropping in their own right, this is absolutely the one where I was just like, I cannot believe that's happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's good for me as well because it means I can now play Nier, like another Nier game, because I think I'm sort of refusing to play it again after the ending, the interesting one. Like that was.
I was going to say which ending, because the final one. It's like that is perfect, and I never want to touch this again. That was perfect. Done. Yeah.
And it means I can play some more goddamn Nier. I loved that game. I loved it so much. And like you say, I grabbed it and just lost myself in it for a good couple of months. Like, I really played it hard, and the stuff they do with storytelling and the Emil bit. Oh, I'm getting emotional. Yes, this is what you need. This is the big kick in the arse. This is what you needed to wake us up. Like, whoa, okay.
I mean, I've got no experience of the original beyond the amazing soundtracks, really, which I've listened to multiple times, especially the reimagined soundtracks. They're incredible. And when I took a load of took my games collection to get an Xbox One, this is one that I didn't trade in because I just felt that I owned it. I barely even sort of touched into it, but on the back of that Cane and Rinse episode actually as well, which is one of my favourite episodes that I've listened to, I just got a real taste for this is something I have to fall into at a certain point, and I'm not gonna get £1.50 or whatever it was I would have gotten in the trade. I'll keep this on the shelf for a rainy day or a week off.
That
I know
soundtrack
you
is...
play it.
I would say the same,
right.
To be honest. If you find yourself with a couple of weeks where you're waiting before a game comes out or whatever, put Nier in, start playing it, and if you get to any points where you're feeling frustrated or stuck or anything, just let one of us know and we'll help out. It will sink its teeth in. I have no doubt. And
we'll let you know how the fishing works. It's fine.
The soundtrack's kind of emblematic of the ambition that you were talking about, Paddy. Just that it's this it's just ridiculously operatic, and the scope of it, and getting Emmy, I forget her surname, to basically create multiple new languages for that soundtrack and to sing in versions of French and German and English, and it's just,
and then mush them all together, and it's it still sounds like actual language, doesn't it, as well? It sounds really
exactly
cohesive.
It's got the etymology of and the kind of syntax.
It does make it hard. It does make it hard to sing along to.
Semantics. It does, but it's very, very pleasing on the ear. And it's just this game that you would look on Metacritic, look at sales of it, and look at even the front cover or whatever, and see this sort of withered old man there as the hero, and you would think, why was this game worthy of having that sort of level of production and that sort of intricacy and thought put into a soundtrack? And the answer is because there's stuff in this game that makes it, that's equal to that in terms of scope and ambition. I
mean, it's interesting to note that in the likes of the Sony conference, you've got The Last Guardian, Final Fantasy VII, which have massive fan bases built upon Shadow of the Colossus and Eco in the one sense, and the other, Final Fantasy VII, being this sort of eternal classic that people love. But in this case, seeing the cheering and the rising up from a group of people that fucking held on to and loved this game, that didn't get its due, but still keeps getting spoken about within this level of it got somewhat of an enigma, but it was personal, it was theirs, and to see all of these people rising up, and maybe their voices weren't as cacophonous as those other two titles, but seeing people just getting something that they never thought they'd get, this little surprise that didn't leak out pre-E3. And this was probably one of the biggest announcements for me in that regard, that it was this total secret that just brought so much joy to the people that held on to and loved that game. That's magnificent. We then had Tomb Raider, which we've already detailed in the Microsoft conference. Went into Square Mobile, where we got Tomb Raider Go.
Lara Croft Go, I believe they're keeping. So when they made Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light, they kind of said they were going to split the franchise, so that anything called Tomb Raider is main series, the game, albeit rebooted, but the game that everyone's familiar with, and anything called Lara Croft's kind of a side project with the character, but maybe a bit different. So that's why we've had the two dungeon crawler games, Lara Croft.
So Tomb Raider is trousers, and Lara Croft is the hot pants.
That's the one, yeah. So I don't know how this is going to play, but Hitman Go was good fun and paid a lot of deference to the series in terms of how to make a board game feel like a Hitman game without having any of the mechanics or anything. So if they can do something like that with Lara Croft Go, then yeah, all for it, because Hitman Go was a really good time.
I really like the look of Hitman Go, that it just looked like incidental characters that would be on the side of a train set.
Yes, yeah, it was proper Subbuteo, or as you say, train set character. Yeah.
I wonder if from here they'll go into Final Fantasy Go, because it seems like a natural.
Who knows? Yeah, possibly.
Just Cause Go. You move one space and the board explodes.
Yeah, or Deus Ex Go. Your character is invisible and everyone dies.
I never asked for this. There was then a kind of wonky old montage that kicked in. That was Final Fantasy 15, Final Fantasy 14, Life is Strange, and Dragon Quest Heroes. And then we went into Kingdom Hearts Mobile, which looked ropey as fuck, frankly.
Kingdom Hearts does absolutely less than nothing for me. I've really tried to get into the first one and just I can't. I just can't. It's just too twee, and I just don't like the combat. I understand this mobile one has already been out in Japan, maybe?
Don't know.
Was this
something like
Kingdom
it has already
Hearts
existed?
Unchained Key, was that this one?
That could be this one,
Yeah, okay.
I was under the impression this had already come out before, but I might be wrong. I am really not up on my Kingdom Hearts.
I was watching this at first thinking, is this Kingdom Hearts 3? Because I don't see what the fuss is about. And I'm sure there's people that statement's annoyed, because if you are a Kingdom Hearts fan, any Kingdom Hearts may well be good Kingdom Hearts. But
we'll jump in at this point to the new Kingdom Hearts then that's coming to consoles. I mean, I've got no resonance with this at that point. I despise Disney for their old management and the way that they were fucking over Hideo Miyazaki's stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, people do love Kingdom Hearts, and I've seen folks enthusing that you can actually do an attack as a theme park ride now.
Yes, attack with a train and a roller coaster or similar. It seemed like
That's weird.
It did look very strange.
That's weird.
I don't know if that's been in Kingdom Hearts games previously or if that's something new for this one, but it did look very odd.
Also, what's with the whole bit where they sat there with the guys that made Tangled, and they were saying Tangled's in this? What? That was a strange piece.
I don't know. I saw a lot of people that are really big fans of Tangled that just went wacky at that. So
I'm a big fan of Tangled, and a lot of respect for the people that made it, because it's reinvigorated, or it's one of a few films that have reinvigorated kind of Disney to where they were early 90s. With telling good stories and putting twists on sort of known tropes and tales and stuff. So I have a lot of love for for a film like Tangled, and therefore by extension the people who made it, but there wasn't really any information aside from them just rubber stamping this game as to why they're involved.
Yeah, it's in it. Show us. Nah.
Would be what, I mean,
I
would say.
Again, I do like Tangled. What my favourite bit of Tangled trivia is that the voice of the horse is Frank Welker, who also voiced Megatron.
Ooh.
Yeah, thanks, man. Right, so we then had Final Fantasy VII, which was the same trailer as the PS4, which we've discussed. We had World of Final Fantasy with the thumb people that we've discussed before. Hitman,
we've
the new one.
Discussed previously. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Everyone else is like, really? Hitman
Now,
broken pieces?
You see this next one, a lot of people kind of went, what? And I was really up for this. There's a new Star Ocean coming to the PS4. It's 30 frames per second that they showed there, but they said they're getting it up to 60 frames. In this new generation of consoles, I am in the mood for a big, bright JRPG, and I'm massively up for this. And is it Tales of Zestria or Zesteria that's coming to PS4 as well. So yeah, I really liked the original Star Ocean and Star Ocean 2 when they came to the PSP. I kind of like that mixture of science fiction and more fantasy-based stuff.
So this is Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness, I believe is the title. Is that right?
Which is, I like that title. It seems suitably bonkers and Japanese.
And they basically put the timeline for Star Ocean 4 up on the screen, Space Date 10, and kind of showed where it fits with the series, I guess. I wonder if part of... You're right, there did seem to be a lukewarm reaction. I wonder if part of that's because the Xbox 360 Star Ocean didn't go down well with a lot of people who kind of probably tried the series for the first time there. I don't know. But...
I agree. Pat, any resonance there for you, or was it a kind of...
Literally nothing. Like, I've never played a Star Ocean game. Looked alright, I guess. The explanation of what the magic was called made me go a bit like, like I think it was symbology or something about the power of written words, and I just, my brain just turns off at that point and just looks at the colours. I can't do it. This was shortly after. This was too soon after the Fire Emblem Shin Megami Tensei thing, where again I think my brain was still in what mode. So it looks nice. It looks like pretty. It looks a little bit like visually looks like what's it called? White Knight Chronicles, was it?
Oh god, that PS3.
Yeah, the level 5 one where they kind of ran around and it looked nice. It didn't play nice, but it looked nice.
I thought.
So we then had.
Sorry, just quickly. I thought the start of that trailer where they were kind of following characters and then zooming in on them running elsewhere was like. It was quite nicely done, but then on the sort of third time where it was kind of panning through an archway onto where they were running to next, you were like, is this a game where they just run from one place to the next? What is going on? It was a very bizarre way to try and introduce the idea of a Star Ocean game, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. Finally, we had another look at Deus Ex Mankind Divided.
The first time at any of the conferences that we saw it, and the first time we've seen, I think I'm right in saying, any actual gameplay, because it was a CGI boondoggle that was released previously. It looks like they're upping the ante in terms of there was a lot of sort of social unrest and a lot of pointing out the disparity between the rich and the poor. It does seem like they're going to be shifting that because in the not the first game, the third game technically, Human Revolution, they the disparity between the rich and the poor meant that the rich could have all the enhancements that allowed them to live comfortable, pleasant lives, and the poor couldn't afford or had very sort of body hack style, self-done, back alley style augmentations put in that were often dangerous, etc. So, whereas this time around, they're wording probably they're sticking by their wording of it, but they're drawing a line between those who have augmentations being now the oppressed and the shunned from society based on what happened at the end of Human Revolution, and everyone else kind of separating themselves and being the now elite, as it were. But yeah, Deus Ex, the original, was a fantastic kind of, not even action RPG, you couldn't call it. It probably seemed that way when it came out, but just an exploration of how different mechanics can lead to different gameplay, and a kind of RPG from 2000 that came out that I've got a lot of love for and a lot of time for. And Human Revolution did a good job of updating it. I thought Mankind Divided looks like it's doing the same again.
I really enjoyed the Wii U Deus Ex. Thought it was absolutely fantastic.
I was kind of interested to see that they're going the whole Illuminati route with the plot though this time. Did you notice in the logo the A of the Mankind is a little triangle?
I hadn't noticed that, no, but at the end of Human Revolution there was a kind of coda piece that was the Illuminati basically being formed-ish, or at least meeting and revealing themselves to the player, albeit not to the world. So, and obviously that becomes a big part of the original games. This is all still set before the original games, but there was a particular name at the end of Human Revolution that is important with future games. So I assume we're going to see more of that all playing into this, which is going to be a good thing, really.
So that was Square's debut show, I guess. Any musings upon it?
Too much talking.
A lot of talking.
So much talking. The pacing was very strange. It was very up and down.
It seemed a bit unrehearsed as well compared to
much like Kingdom Hearts. It was a roller coaster attack of a show. Like,
but yeah, it seems like they've got the games in there to kind of interest people and wow them. It seems like it could have been a much shorter show. And they needed, like, the montage and the kind of screen with 4 different games on it. They needed to do some actual introduction of that. I'm not asking them to explain any of it, just here's some games we've got coming for you, bang 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 on to the next, you know.
Oh yeah, they did have that. We formed the JRPG
Tokyo
project.
RPG project, Project Setsuna,
which just seemed like a bit of tinkly piano over a few, albeit very nice pieces of artwork. So
I'm up for a project. I'm up for a Project Satsuma.
well, I mean, if nothing else, it seems like Square celebrating what got them here in the first place, and I think a lot of that is based around Bravely Default getting really good press for the company, not just for the game itself, and actually selling quite well compared to the amount of money that was invested in it, I guess.
Which kind of makes Bravely 2's absence from this show seem kind of confusing. I heard more than one person say, "Where the heck was Bravely 2?"
Because they could have sieged into that quite nicely from there. So
I think the announcement of Tokyo RPG Project was kind of there was a lot less of Sony's sort of business stuff in their press conference that usually is the dip in the middle where everyone just goes ugh. There was almost none of that in the Sony show at all. But in the Square show there was a little bit too much of almost navel gazing with them explaining what they're doing and why, instead of just showing us about the games. It's when the sort of shareholder stuff we talked about previously becomes a little bit too much actually talking to the shareholders rather than to people like us watching it.
Who are watching on the internet, and you broadcast it to millions of people, so have something for us.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. You know, announce to the shareholders what you want to announce to them in shareholder meetings. That's what they're for, surely.
Kind of amazed they didn't show more Final Fantasy 15 as well. I kind of expected that to make a big showing, like after the episode Duskai that came out, and people are excited for it, and they're like, we're still making it, and then moved on. Like, interesting. I wanted to see.
I get the feeling that's not as far along as people think, and that there's from what I can tell, there's been a lot of problems with frame rates in there and stuff, and even in the Eurogamer review of the updated episode Duskai, they said that it's still struggling with a huge amount of the effects that they're trying to put into there. So I think that's much further along than people realise. I think this is a way of maybe kind of hiding that.
What's another 3 years?
So, coming up next week, we had promised to go straight into the PC Gamer Show, but as Patrick was the only one that had seen it, we lost a little momentum when we started chatting about it, as Patrick was trying to be as enthusiastic as he possibly could be, but I don't know. We were kind of... James and I were kind of passengers to that, and we didn't have the kind of snappy, chatty that we had on the other stuff. So we lanced
tried.
that.
We really tried.
we built it up like a beach ball, but lanced it like a boil. So we're coming on to our games of the show, which were the games that stood out the most for you. And if you had to narrow it to one, if you had to funnel it into your game of the show, what would that be? Let's start with our guest and ignore the ginger. James, shut up. Wait your turn. Don't make me send you back down the mines.
Oh, the respect.
If it helps any, Paddy, if I don't shave for about 3 months, I get just about enough stubble to come through to know that it's slightly ginger. So,
next you're gonna start kissing. Find me a brunette. Okay, sir, I'm getting the car.
One way or another, there's a ginger going next.
Flay them, take their skins, and sell it to the squirrels. Right then,
probably a game to be made in there, isn't there?
There probably
this is just
is.
like being at home.
Why does your good wife often flay your skin and sell it to the squirrels?
More than you'd think and less than you'd hope.
Moving swiftly on, let's talk games. So, which games stood out the most for you at the show, and which is your singular game of the show, Mr. James Carter?
So, very quickly, 3 games that I saw in the coverage that weren't at conferences that I like the look of. Death's Gambit, a 2D Castlevania-esque game that people are throwing Dark Souls around next to a lot, and you know us, anytime someone mentions Dark Souls, the ears prick up, like aforementioned squirrel. Woo-hoo. Start chewing on our nuts and such things. Sorry.
That's so squirrel. He was going like this.
Another game that evokes one of my favourites is Volume, which is looking very Metal Gear Solid-ish, and that's an absolutely good thing as far as I'm concerned.
Seems like ages since that was announced. At Nottingham Castle, because I was there.
Because you were there in person. So that's coming out August, so looking forward to that. And the other one I mentioned briefly when we were talking about Assassin's Creed, I think, which was Ancestors. No, it wasn't when we were talking about Assassin's Creed. It's when we were talking about a trailer that harkened back to something that the developer had done previously and it wasn't kind of obvious. And Ancestors did the same, which is Patrice Désilets' game. Having now split from Ubisoft, he's making a game about the point at which Homo sapiens split and became a separate species. So
all I've seen of that is a very, very strange trailer.
Yeah.
Which seemed to go on for rather a long time and be incredibly full of itself. Despite the fact that when Jeff Keighley interviewed Patrice himself, he seemed like quite a really nice and sort of humble kind of guy, but his trailer was the exact opposite of that.
It seems to insult the thing that he made. It's great.
Hey worms, here's the game. It wasn't. I'm not quoting from the trailer.
But yeah, it just looks like a game that's in a setting and about stuff that isn't often covered in games. So that's just piqued my interest a little bit. But in terms of stuff I'm interested in, I started writing lists down, and I think I came up with 13 games that I already knew about that I saw more of at the show that I just love the sight of, and 11 that I didn't know were in production prior to this show that piqued my interest. Kind of highlights, obviously, Last Guardian, Beyond Eyes, Cuphead, Mirror's Edge, Catalyst. Those are all games that we knew were coming, but saw a bit more of, and just looked even more entrancing for either knowing that they're coming soon or for just seeing a bit more of what that's about. And as far as new games go, I already mentioned Nier. I'm kind of having to temper expectations on that because we didn't see any of it. It's really doesn't seem like it's in production yet. It's kind of rolling up now, so that's not going to actually oddly end up being my game of the show just because it's an announcement and not much else. So I don't feel like I can really I can't afford to get as excited as probably I am about that. And
it's a mystery
Recore
baby.
Similarly.
It's a mystery baby. You don't know anything about the baby yet.
Exactly. Recore for exactly the same reasons. I think they had a trailer that showed a lot of ideas, but yeah, I can't get excited about that until we see some actual gameplay and get some idea of what it is going to be.
I think with Recore though, it's not far off being finished. They're saying
they're saying early 2016, aren't they? Yeah.
I mean, the thing that I worry about, and this was in conversation over Twitter today, this was discussed. I worry how much Square Enix are taking on, and how far they've gotten with the projects that they say are in production, and how long it's going to be until we see the things that they've just announced. I genuinely think that Final Fantasy 15 isn't being vaguely as far as they're letting on. Final Fantasy 7 remake, that could be Never Neverland. And I mean,
there's a lot of games there, and not a lot of definitive release dates and substance.
I mean, I saw the Eurogamer feature on the new version of the demo for Final Fantasy 15, and they were saying that technically on both systems it's still really struggling. And that's what makes me think that they've not even really got their engine attuned that much if they can't really present a decent amount of gameplay thus far. And I know it's been sort of dialed up a little bit from the original, but I don't know. I feel that Square have got a little more heart. They've got their soul back from where they were a couple of years ago. But I wonder how much of that is. Yeah, how much of that is pure front and trying to bring. I mean, they announced today that PS4 version of the original Final Fantasy is October. You're telling me it takes from last June to this October?
PS4,
Le baffle, monsieur. Ça va? Merci bien, mais oui, c'est bon.
If the PS4 and iOS games had been the other way around, you might understand it a bit more. But they managed to create a port of the game to iOS and release it before they 6 months before they actually got the port they said they were doing sorted. It's very strange. It certainly is.
It took one man 3 years to build the entire game in Little Big Planet. Come on, guys.
I mean, on the other side of that, there's I watched some of the gameplay footage tonight for the new Deus Ex, and it looks fantastic, and it looks quite a way along as well. So
that's one I'm definitely excited for as well.
It made me want to dig out the Wii U version again and get a bit further in that, because that was magnificent, and if you've not played it, it's a pittance now.
Now, tip of the hat to Rare Replay as well. Looking forward to that, just as kind of a historical collection of UK video games production for a 30-year period. There's not much like that. If they can go anyway to throwing in any kind of documentary or demo versions or demos or anything like that would be icing on the cake for sure. But even just the games themselves document 30 years of one of Britain's kind of finest development houses, and what a nice way to do it, and what seemingly a lovely collection. So definitely tip of the hat to that. Which leaves kind of the last game I want to mention before I mention what is my actual game of the show, which is Horizon Zero Dawn. I've saved this for this point because it floored me, and we got to see what is ostensibly probably early but still gameplay, which a lot of the other stuff I've mentioned we didn't get any of that, and this therefore just I can have a bit more confidence in. We got to see how the game's going to play, we got to see some of the themes of it, and maybe a bit of how it's going to look and feel and play and that kind of thing. So just absolutely floored by that. I thought it looked fantastic, and to say it comes from the developers of Killzone, again, not a disparagement to them. That those are fine games, but this is something completely out of left field with regards to that. I think so.
I'm hoping that this sees the launch of Guerrilla into being a different kind of studio, and with the splash that this has made, and the public reaction to it as well. That it looks so different, it looks so brilliant, that people were so captivated by it, that this may well be more than Guerrilla doing Killzone games. This might be them being given their head to do whatever they want to, and the fact that they got this idea in the first place and they started headhunting Witcher 3 developers, and they headhunted the writer of Fallout New Vegas. That to me says they're not only passionate about this, but they want the best people working on it. And I get the feeling that this could be a landmark moment for the company. And whilst I've not been that arse with them before, I'm all over that. Absolutely all over it.
Yeah, definitely. Which leads me to my quote-unquote game of the show. Just basically, of everything I saw, the one thing that I'm most excited about, it's Street Fighter V, which I didn't expect, because I knew that was coming. I'd seen a lot of it previously, but we just got to see more. They did a tournament, they built it into an event, which they had no need to do, because EVO's only a few weeks away. But just lots of effort put into showing that game and showcasing it and showing some high-level play in that game, and everything about it just looks intriguing and interesting to me. I'm ridiculously excited about that.
I need to track down some footage of that then, because I haven't seen any of that. And as I've said before, I've got, even though I don't play fighting games, I have a strange sort of addiction to watching them on Twitch. But yeah, I'll definitely track that down.
Yeah, plenty on YouTube to see, and as I say, EVO 2015 coming up soon, and there's going to be some more stuff there. I imagine a kind of side tournament or side demo matches and stuff. So yeah, great show.
Uncle Patrice.
Okay,
What would thine be, sir?
I've tried to narrow mine down to 3. I realised at this last second that I actually need to narrow it down to 4. As a fourth has literally sprang into my mind as I said that out loud. Okay, let's start with the one that just occurred to me. Obviously, the new trailer for Metal Gear 5 Phantom Pain dropped down. There's been crap loads of info dropping around it as well. The dog stuff, particularly. You have a dog that can help you be a cool stealth guy with your dog. Yeah, okay. I've watched the new Metal Gear trailer probably about 5 times since it first appeared last week. And I'm still every now and again just go, I'll just watch it again. I'll just watch the nuclear one, and then I'll watch this new one again, and then I'll get excited all over again.
Superb.
Yeah, it's coming out in I think August, so it's really like the hype train is officially has left the station. It's flying hard. It might miss its next stop. It's going so fast. Yeah.
On that note, have you seen that our friend Gibbs Raynock, Krusmak, a wonderful artist, put up a Metal Gear Solid poster.
He did
today,
and it's
bloody magnificent,
bloody gorgeous, isn't it? It's bloody gorgeous. You talented.
Sorry for interrupting, but I wondered it leapt into mind because I wondered if you'd seen it.
Yeah, no, I've seen it, and I'm very, very seriously considering it for the reading room. Yeah, so yeah, Metal Gear 5. I was always going to be excited anyway, but another brilliant trailer that excited me for the new game, and as an existing Metal Gear fan, it hit every single button that it needed to hit. So yeah, Metal Gear 5. Right, number 3. Let's look at these 3 and work out which one's number 3. I'm going to go with For Honor. The new game Ubi showed. The sword fighting, clangy Dynasty Warriors-esque 4-on-4 team-based sort of stabathon game. Didn't expect this to look good. When you get a dev like Ubisoft come out and say we're going to show you something in a sort of a bit of a new genre now, you think, okay, what are they doing now? Are they going to make an MMO? What are they doing? But genuinely surprised by how fun this looked, and the fact that we saw a lot of gameplay as well. It seemed to be fully formed, fully realised. It looked like it was working, and it looked like a hell of a lot of fun. The combat was weighty. The sort of the little guys around that you can just sort of stab and kill in a single hit. That looked super fun. The animations were all neat. Good sort of variety in the kind of people you can pick, and it just looks like a really good way to, have a bit of a banter around with some swords with your mates.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, did not expect it to be good. Like I was thinking, it's a game about men with swords. Of course it is, and like you say, it actually looks like something a bit different and a bit new in the kind of quite sort of comparatively crowded kind of team-based arena game. It looks a bit different.
Well, you know how yesterday we were saying that in the previous Nintendo conference, one of the big surprise and the big highlight was Splatoon, because the developers sat down and told you how it played and told you how to play it.
Do you mean an hour and a half ago?
Earlier on this evening?
Huh?
Earlier on this evening when we were talking about this, you mean? Yeah. Don't break the illusion.
You just shattered the illusion. Time is timey-wimey, and you just twisted it like it's just a cocktail napkin, but put it in one of your half-drunk, tepid tea mugs, and now it just exists as a mausoleum for mediocrity.
Have you know I never leave a tea half drunk?
Yeah. But when in the previous Nintendo show, when Splatoon was there, they showed us how the game played. They created a thirst, a desire. They made you want to get your hands on it and get stuck in, and gave you a good idea of exactly what it was. And UB have always been fantastic at dropping a CGI trailer 3 years before we've seen anything. So to actually get that thirst of for how it plays, the fun that was there, and the stuff that was dropped afterwards in conversations, which was much more specific, which ignited a fire in me more than the things that we saw on the conference. That more of that, please, Ubisoft.
Yeah, and refreshing to see a new IP that doesn't have to be about shooting the man.
Instead, it's stabbing the man.
Stab the man. I mean, the man still comes off badly, but at least he gets to see who kills him this time.
Mm-hmm.
Poor mans. They have problems. Poor mans. For Honor was number 3. Number 2, I'm going to go with a game that was announced very shortly before the show, but we got to see a massive look in. It's Fallout 4. The presentation at the Bethesda show I thought was perfect. Absolutely bang on. You had Todd Howard on stage, who was enthusiastic. He was loquacious. He knew what he was talking about. He was enthusiastic. It had just about the right amount of swagger as well, to sort of joke with the crowd and sort of say that these packet editions are sort of cheap tat, but ours is pretty good cheap tat. He knows, like he seems like a real person, not just a suit up there to sort of show it off. And the fact they spent over half an hour showing off like things from the character customizer to the first kind of moments of the game, and going in deep on the world and the level building and stuff like that, like it made me excited in a way that I haven't been for it previously. So much so that today I installed New Vegas, and I am finally giving it the try that it deserves.
Oh my god! Because I've installed New Vegas, and I'm going to also give that the trial that it deserves.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm an hour in, and I already have some specky glasses like a nerd and a cowboy hat.
I've got to the character creator, and then I switched it off because I was tired.
Well, I realised I shouldn't have let Laura help, because I said, "What should we name this character? Jennifer, man or woman? Man."
Seems reasonable.
So Jennifer is of Asian descent with a big ginger beard. So there's that.
I'm sure she's beautiful.
Yeah. No, Jennifer's definitely your man.
Okay.
Yeah, Jennifer. Fallout 4, it really come out, and I wasn't expecting to be as hyped for it as I was by the time that show finished, but I'm kind of annoyed I didn't watch that show first now, because it was at a stupid time in the morning. Wish I'd seen that one live, because I think that would have woken me up and kept me pepping all night if I'd have seen that live.
It was certainly worth waiting up for, I think, and it gave a great taste of the excitement to come at E3.
Not forgetting the volumetric lighting and the fact that their new engine seems to be less rubbish, but I'm sure time will tell.
Yeah.
Moving swiftly on then to my number 1. There's a reason I was a bit quiet earlier. It's Horizon Zero Dawn, which is a stupid name, but for all the reasons you guys said. It looks kind of new. It looks like something we've not seen before, especially from a developer that's been, chained to the Killzone franchise. Not that, the the Killzone franchise is bad. I mean, I played the last one on PS4 and I enjoyed my time with it. You know, it was a fun few hours. It looked beautiful. I can't argue that. It just looked like so out there. It looked a little bit Dragon's Dogma, a little bit enslaved. Feels like there's a world there, and I want to kind of go in there and find out what it's all about. And the fact that they showed it off, not with a sizzle trailer, just straight into the gameplay as well. Like, just straight in. Like, this is how it works. Go. Brilliant. Show your games off like that, and you'll make me excited. Well done, Horizon. 10 points.
McMarv.
Yes.
Well,
CJ, what were your gamers, if there were more than one, of the show?
Well, I mean, the show as a whole was just magnificent, and you've touched on games that have interested me. There are certain games that I was curious for before the show, and things like Dark Souls 3, which I don't think that teaser trailer was particularly exciting, but the stuff the news that's come out afterwards has been incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
I'm very, very up for that. But as far as E3 showings go, there wasn't really that much to go on beyond the speculation of folks that have had a hands-on with it. As a fan of the Halo books, I was very excited for Halo 5 Guardians. Again, I only saw a little bit. It looked pretty as anything, and I saw Edward Book from ODST in there again. But for me, the meat and potatoes of my excitement of that is when I see a bit more of when I see the Master Chief's campaign and I see Linda, Fred, and Kelly from Blue Team, because that'll be a big deal for me, because it's having read those characters in numerous books and known their connection to Master Chief, to actually see them on screen is something that I'm actually going to get a little bit emotional about. So yeah, that's. I don't know, that feels like it's still got a moment. The moment that I want it to sink its teeth into is maybe coming at Gamescom or something. I like the taster of Recore as was mentioned, but again want to see a little more gameplay. But Gears X, the stuff that I've seen tonight, looked fantastic. Fallout 4, I'm absolutely with you on that one. I've seen a tip of the hat to a game that's coming on Wii U called Typo Man, and I believe the demo is on the Wii U eShop until midnight tonight, and you get discounts on the main game if you play it. But it's supposed to be a little bit special. So
Typo Man! I've played that at Gamescom.
Oh, talk to me.
Oh God, yeah, no, that was one of the ones that stood out for me and Laura. Laura got to have a go. We sat down and had a go at Typo Man. You're a man made out of letters. The letters H, E, R, and O in a bit of an. You don't pick them up in that order, but you go, I get it. And each kind of start off as a it's cool. You start as an O and you kind of bounce around and you kind of hop onto your torso that's a H. Really, really, really neat. And like it plays with words. And like for example, there's the word trap on the floor. The word part, I think. And it will, if you go near it, the word part flips over and kind of goes trap and kind of flips back again.
Oh, cool.
The way to stop it is you have to find the letter S, shove it up nearby, so when the trap comes over, it turns into the word strap and it stops moving.
No, that's really cool.
It's so good. It's so like such cool little ideas as well. Like it's a little bit limbo in that sort of running around kind of do a physics problem. But the wordy stuff was brilliant. Both me and Laura both came away from that wanting to buy that straight away.
Well, I'm glad I could introduce the reminder then here. That's really neat. But
get on that.
The article that I read was astonishing, and today Brad Galloway was saying how good the demo was. So I'm hoping it's still there. But
worth saying for anyone listening, unfortunately, that this isn't going to make it out in time for that. But yeah.
Yeah, but keep your eye out because I'm
keep
going
your eye out for the game.
Yeah, we'll have a chat about that further when I've delved into it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you all the way with Horizon. As is mentioned before, that was the curio before E3 started. That when I heard about the Witcher developers and the new Vegas writer being hired, and all it was at that point was Guerrilla's forthcoming open world RPG. But that was more than I could have expected. And I've got my friend Pete comes around at the weekend and we watch some anime stuff, and he's a really big science fiction fan. He's not a gamer at all, but he always really likes seeing the concepts in games, or the artistry, and so he comes at it from a completely different perspective, and he was really taken with that. And we were saying that games seem to be doing things, especially in science fiction, that films aren't at the moment. That they're dropping really big, brilliant concepts that are deep enough to go into and explore with a degree of nuance and a wonderful vibrancy that films can't capture in an hour and a half. So rather than games now trying to be films as they've been attempted to for the longest time, it now seems that games are becoming like books, and are becoming like books of art. And hopefully, if the stories then go beyond that and captivate all the more, we're taking a cinematic step beyond Hollywood, I think. So, yes, I'm as smitten with that as you gents. My game of the show though is Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. Just really taken with a J-pop RPG, and it existing in the middle of a suburban mecca, and the tip of the hat to depression, and these dark creatures feeding on creativity, and how music can save the world, and turning shops into dungeons, and all of that stuff. You wouldn't have guessed it from the Nintendo digital event, but the footage that's on Treehouse, that's on YouTube, I would implore anybody to check out, because it's just, sometimes the concept just it just sort of sticks in your mind, and you just think like, I want to lose myself within that world, and I'm desperate for it to be as good as it intimated in those in the interviews and the playthroughs that followed. So yes, there's mine. So
very cool.
Excellent.
McGraw.
Right.
Well, thank you to everybody.
Whoa, you've missed something. We haven't given
You
out
don't
the
know
award.
what I was going to say.
We haven't given out the award.
What award?
You know the award.
Oh, I think Electronic Arts have stolen the 20 minutes of wanking award by actually giving us an hour and 20 minutes worth of wanking, in between which was a lovely man who showed us a little twee thing of twine.
Yeah.
But Electronic Arts, all day long.
Electronic Arts, particularly the FIFA section, particularly that bit. Dear God, guys, whose idea was that? We know football's a thing. We get it. Why did it have to be that long? So try harder next year, please, guys. Well done, EA.
Right. Well, if you stop woofing at me,
That's legitimate.
I will
woof.
say, no, you shut up. You're the woofer here. I don't know. I'm tired. Thank you to all the listeners that have listened to. Are we fondling the 8-hour mark?
We're 8.5 easy at this point. I reckon.
Yeah, that's cool. But
Yeah.
I like listening to the Cane and Rinse Midnight Resistance Chat Very Good Recycle Bin soirees at the end of the year.
Absolutely.
And I like listening to people that I'm invested in talk about games. So if that's the case with us, I thank you for making it this far. For those people that joined us on previous casts, I thank Josh and Darren very, very much for joining us on those. And big style to our boy James for riding this horse all the way.
Not at all. It's been, as always, an absolute pleasure.
No, I really, really enjoyed it. So thank you very much, mate. Much appreciated.
No, anytime. I'm more than glad to come and chat with two such fine gents as yourselves.
So then, my wonderful ginger foxtress.
Yes.
We shall bid goodbye one and all, and next time we will come back with a different show. Goodbye.
Farewell.
Bye-bye.